Welcome back to a casual Hey J review where we're going to talk about Paper Mario the Origami King and why I absolutely love this game. Hey J review. So I have a strange relationship with Paper Mario. I've always been a big fan of the Mario RPG games since the Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo. And then I got into the Paper Mario series with Thousand Year Door, then went to the Wii version, didn't really like that, went back to the Paper Mario 64 version, loved that one. And pretty much have been enjoying Paper Mario games since the Wii. If I say since the Wii U, that just sounds like 2 games ago. But anyways, Color Splash I enjoyed. The card mechanics were kind of meh. But anyways, when Paper Mario Origami King was announced, I was like, oh yeah, cool, another Paper Mario game. It's not like this can't wait to get into this game, but it was like okay, yeah, this looks fun. When I got into it, I have to say, now that I've gone through the whole thing, and by the way, this is going to be fairly spoiler free unless I say so, and I'll give you a time code to go where you need to go to avoid those. But I've pretty much completed Paper Mario the Origami King, at least to my satisfaction. We're going to get into the collectibles in a moment. And I have to say, I love this game. I love what they've done with it. Everything about this game is just so good, and it is a whole head and shoulders above Color Splash, which I know to many of you might not be saying much. But anyways, let's get started with the story in Paper Mario. So the story is pretty basic. You're Mario and Luigi, and you're heading to an origami festival in the Mushroom Kingdom, and then pretty much all hell breaks loose. There's an origami king that brings out his origami villains and steals the castle, and it's off to you to kind of go. It's your typical Mario story. Oh no, somebody has taken over the kingdom. Now you have to go off and stop them. It's not the deepest story you're going to get, and I don't think Paper Mario games have ever really been about story, and I'm okay with that. The next thing that is usually quite iconic when it comes to a Paper Mario or Mario RPG game is the battle mechanic. That's where they always come out with a very unique feature. And in this one, of course, it's the ring things, which, let's just get this out of the way, I hate it. I really do not like the ring thing. It's timed. First of all, it's a puzzle. It's timed so that there's a level of stress. And then there's, you have pretty much 2 or 3 turns limit to either spin it or whatever you shift it up and down. And in the early part of the game, the puzzles are easy, and then the puzzles just get kind of hard where, you know, as you're adventuring in the overworld, which is really fun to do, like they nailed adventuring in the overworld, you actually avoid the enemies because as soon as you hit an enemy, it's like, oh, you were having fun collecting things and searching for things. Here's a random puzzle, solve it. Oh, you can't solve it fast enough. We're going to damage you and maybe even have you have a game over. The enemy battles are just, it's a good idea what they were going for. I applaud them for their creativity, but I did not enjoy fighting like that all the way through. Now the boss battles, that's a whole different scenario. The boss battles I absolutely loved, and it uses a ring system in a different way. So when you're playing enemies, you're in the middle, the enemies show up, and you just have to line them up to either jump on them or hammer them the traditional Mario RPG way. Or you can use items. In the boss mode, the boss is in the middle, and then you have to create paths, and it's a whole different type of puzzle, and I never felt like time was that big of a constraint. When I did, here's my hack. You take a picture with the Switch's photo mode, then you go into the gallery, you take the time you need to solve it, then you go back into the game and you do it. I learned that hack about halfway through the game. The bosses are fun, and I think if they would have went with a more traditional battle system for the random enemies, and you keep the ring system for either side challenges or bosses, that would have worked great. In fact, I think an indication that this battle system is so poor is the fact that here is a bit of a spoiler for the end boss, the final boss. So I'm going to put a time code here if you want to skip the details about the final boss. If your battle system is so good, the final boss of the game, in my opinion, should reflect it should reflect your abilities in mastering the combat system. I feel that's what most RPGs do. But because the ring mechanic here is so limited, they actually toss it out for the most part in the final boss fight. In the final boss fight, you have if I remember right, yeah, you have to go through like pretty much the 4 bosses again, which you've already done. So it's just pretty much saying, do you remember how to do this? Then there's a whole segment that just has Mario running around and like hammering the floor to get Bowser to, it's like a paper battle, which has nothing to do with the ring system. And then the very final part, it's another ring puzzle that you have to do in a hyper limited amount of time. And I have to admit, this is a few times where I did game over. So what you do at the end doesn't, in my opinion, have much to do with what you've been learning throughout the game. Yeah, sure, you use the ring in a way, but it's not used in any way that you did with the bosses. It just falls flat, in my opinion. All right, now we're back in spoiler-free territory. The battle system, garbage. It could have been tweaked. The next thing that absolutely shined, this gets a 10 out of 10 for me, are the collectibles in this game. As someone who loves collecting things, this game just gives it all to you. So there, in every level, there's a bunch of things you can collect. You can collect toads, which is probably the best thing to collect, because the more toads you collect, the more your seats in your battle system get filled with toads who can help you. Not that that's that useful, but the toads also fill in the town. So if you're, sometimes they'll go back to Toad Town and now you have like shops that open up. You have new things that are opening up in the town. It feels more lively. Or sometimes they just return to a certain part of the world, of whatever world you're in. So like, let's say you're in the desert town, some toads are just going to start filling up the desert town. Some are going to go back to Toad Town. So capturing the toads is really rewarding outside of just finding them and kind of getting that 100% completion for toads. The fact that you're seeing the world come alive, oh man, that is how you do collectathons, and it is so well done. Outside of the toads, you can also find these like little trophies that look like amiibo pretty much. There's, I think, 120 in the game. Those are fun to hunt down. There's a bunch of ways to do it. And then there's the bottomless pits, which you kind of throw a bunch of like paper on it, confetti, to fill it, and that gives you access to new areas sometimes. And filling those in unlocks music soundtracks in the museum. And now, yeah, to sum up the whole collectathon, you have this wonderful museum which keeps track of everything you've been collecting, which is just an added layer of pleasantry for a collector like me. I loved everything. I loved unlocking everything in the museum. And this is one thing where I say I completed the game to my standards, because outside of collecting those 3 basic items that are actually kept track in your overworld map, there are 15 achievement trophies which are completely different, which reward you for like collecting all the toads or doing certain things. Those 15 trophies, I would say most of them are fairly easy to do, but there's a few that require a lot of grinding of like, it's ridiculous. So there's one which really stands out to me where you have to do this river boat cruise in a rapids. So you're a boat going down the rapids. You have to collect every single coin on that tour to get a trophy. And I have no problems with it. I do think you should get an achievement for that. But for me, I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me like two hours to just practice this course, and it's going to be so frustrating. So I have not committed the time to do it yet because I don't feel like it's worth it. So I haven't done it. I have checked out the completionist's video though on Paper Mario to understand like what is it that you get if you get everything. If you collect absolutely everything, you get a surprise bonus ending, which I have not seen. I haven't seen the extra cutscene. And then I've learned through completionists, outside of just what is obviously collectible, apparently there's 2 hidden achievements in the game. One is you have to play the game without dying once, and that gives you another little stamp on your file. And the other one is you have to play the whole game without using any items ever, as well as not dying. So those will give you 2 extra stamps on your save file. Now, if you collect everything, that's your 3rd one. So you can get up to 3 stamps to collect. And that just sounds like a pain. I'm not interested in 100%ing this game. Everything else though, getting the completion, like finding everything in the regions, which is what I've done, I enjoy that. The achievements though, that might turn me off a little bit just because it's so hard. Outside of that, there's other elements in this game I love. You guys know I love my coffee. In the game, they have these cafes, which I wish they would have done more with. The cafes are kind of hidden away. You have to unlock them by throwing confetti when you find them. And oftentimes, all they do is serve a little cute cutscene. So you pretty much have coffee with some of Bowser's minions. And there's like a little story going on in each cafe. And you're just kind of sitting there like overhearing this story. And it's really kind of rich and endearing to kind of get a glimpse of the Mushroom Kingdom from a very like relaxed, chill side, and just to be in a cafe. I could probably play an entire game dedicated to running like the Mario Cafe and just listening to the residents of the Mushroom Kingdom with their stories and like serving them different like lattes and drinks. Now that I think about it, I would probably love that. So I felt that was a nice little glimpse of what could be done with Mario and coffee, and please give me more of that. Outside of that, the music in this game is another thing I want to talk about, because the music has been, it's so well done. Again, they kind of nailed it, like a 10 out of 10. Not that the songs themselves are necessarily the most iconic or the best, but the variety of music, whenever you're in a different region, the battle music changes for whatever region you're in. So the music is always changing. Even when you're fighting, it's always very appropriate. But what I really love is they added all of these performances, and you see it pretty much from the first level when you, even before you get into Toad Town, you have to rescue like this old tree because he got cut up, and then when he grows, like these other like side like tree sisters start like dancing and singing. That dancing and singing happens pretty much in every chapter with different things. Even that river boat cruise that I mentioned, the first time you go through it, before you go through the rivers, you have like well, he's not even old. You have a toad who's paddling the boat for you, and he starts like just singing a song of like cruising down the river. And I feel that really creates like these memories for this game. And I'm sure if I would have played this at a younger age, when there was less games, where it wasn't like a new game every week coming through my head, this would probably stick with me more. But it is just such a, it has a lot of personality. This game has so much personality, despite the game being hated on for not having unique characters. And we're going to get into that actually right now. That's the last point I want to talk about. So the biggest vocal criticism out of, there's two main criticisms against the Paper Mario franchise these days. The first is the fact that there's no XP and the whole battle system has been rehauled, and we've talked about that, and I don't like that. The second thing is the fact that your sidekick characters are pretty much gone. Gone are the Thousand Year Door sidekick characters, which have their own backstories, their own abilities, and add to the game. And in this game, that is true. You don't get any really interesting, like visually different character outside of the traditional Paper Mario characters. Even the bosses are all disappointing in design. They're all just pretty much tools you use for papercraft, like scissors, tape. There's no unique villain really, outside of the Origami King, but like whatever, that's one. The sidekick characters, so despite the sidekick characters not being visually different, the creators of this game have still managed to create these great memories and these great characters with personality and dialogue that really stand out. And I feel like everyone who reviews this game will talk about this moment. So those of you who have been looking around, we're going to talk about the Bob-omb, which is the first sidekick character. And again, there's going to be spoilers. Before I get into them, I will throw up a time code so you can skip it, because the Bob-omb story arc has got to be one of the craziest story arcs I have ever seen in a Mario RPG. You know what? Let's just get into spoiler territory now. So if you don't want to hear anything about the Bob-omb side character, check out the time code. So with Bob-omb, when you get him, I did not like him. And he was designed like he's a Bob-omb with amnesia. And he hangs out with you, and even in fights, he does nothing. He lays there, he does nothing. You go into a dungeon, he's like, I'm gonna wait outside. He's the most useless character ever. And even when you're adventuring in the overworld, he stumbles, he gets lost. There's a whole segment dedicated to just him bumbling around and you having to rescue him. He's completely useless. And then the story just goes like 180. He gets his memory back. He remembers that he lost his wick, and that him and his like brothers were fighting this big squid. And anyways, you go back, you find his wick to help get through this boulder that's blocking your path, and that crushed one of your friends. And he commits suicide. Like, he blows up. The Bob-omb blows up. That's what Bob-ombs do. But the way it's presented, like, this character had feelings and emotions, and there's no other way to say that this character commits suicide in front of you to help you. And it's the tone, the music, the way it's presented. I saw other people on Twitter also be shocked about this moment. And you and the other character that is saved because of that act both go through this crazy process of grieving because like that is some heavy shit, man, for a Paper Mario game. That really, it's a real tearjerker. And then like you even see him as a ghost form later, where he's like, oh, you got to continue without me, like I did what I wanted. It's just like, in this era where there's so many people, I feel, struggling with mental health, to have something like that thrown into a game so casually, it really caught me off guard, and I'm sure it caught a lot of other people off guard. And that topic has impacted my life before, so wow, Nintendo, I was just surprised you went there. Not that I don't think it shouldn't have been there. I think that's very, bold of them to go there, and I think it helps bring a conversation around that. But whew, that Babam has definitely another very high impact memory there from this game. And then the other characters that join in later, I guess we're back in spoiler-free territory. The other characters that join in are, I wouldn't say quite as memorable as that first one, but they play their part. They belong there. They don't really help you in battle that much, I find. But honestly, I didn't miss it. I was kind of happy just controlling Mario with the battle system that we have here. I don't think a sidekick would have been good. Like what they do right now, where they sometimes randomly hurt someone, that's okay for me. And that's pretty much all of the kind of major highlights I have for this game. The last criticism I'm going to say is, I don't think I touched up on it too much in the story, is a lot of the times I was kind of wondering to myself, why am I playing this? Like, why am I advancing the story? Because the story is not that strong. You don't have a strong desire like in other RPGs to like, oh, I need to go have revenge, or I have to do something. And the fact that I wanted to play this game and keep advancing it despite its weak story, I think is a real testament to how strong of a game and how fun this game actually is. And I just had to come here and share that with all of you, because if you haven't played it and you enjoy just romping around the Mushroom Kingdom, having a good time and collecting things, this game is for you, because it's a really good time, and there are a lot of high points to this. And I just have to say, as someone who also really liked Color Splash, there are not many points in that game that stand out to me as quite as impactful as Origami King. So this, I think, is a game that's going to be talked about for a lot longer than Color Splash, because no one's talking about Color Splash anymore. Anyway, so those are my thoughts. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next Hey J Casual review. Until then, keep it classy.